Hey guys, welcome back to the internet. This is Doug. I'm here with Brandon and the Pope, and today we're going to talk all about Nova 2023.
I pity the fool.
A pity the fool. This is Doug. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, say hello.
I don't think I'm comfortable with that.
And Pope the Pope. Pope, say hello to the good people of the internet.
I'll say hello for Brandon.
Okay.
Who will say hello for you, Landon?
Anyway.
Who Landon's the landman?
Today we're talking about the Masters event at Nova, and just in general, kind of the state of Malifaux and all the different stuff that happened around it at Nova 2023. So we're going to start with a little bit of a short intro, and then we're going to go over rounds 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, since it was a 5-round tournament, and we're going to walk through how the event went both for Landon and for Brandon.
Nice.
And then at the end, we're just going to do a quick wrap-up, give you guys kind of our thoughts on the current state of the meta, how Malifaux is going. It's kind of con season and tournament season now, so any other additional nonsense thoughts that we have that may either be helpful or incredibly unhelpful. I guess it'll be up to you guys to figure that out. So I guess with further ado.
Hold on. No, there is one further ado, and it's the most important thing that we probably will talk about the entire video. So for those of you who joined us at Nova, thank you for coming and talking to us. It was a great time. We had a lovely time with everybody, as we usually do. But the thing that made this Nova extra special is that it was at the hotel where Reagan was shot.
Oh my God! Thank you, Brandon. I thought I was done with that for the month.
Jeez.
And
Nope,
you brought
not
it right
even.
back.
We're not
God
even
damn
close.
it.
I'm going to be singing this until... Oh, man. Jesse and I got a selfie at the plaque, which will be in the video right now, assuming I got his permission. And oh boy, can I just say...
Guys.
Special shout out to Jeff for running the tournament. He was a huge fan of me bringing up every 5 minutes that Reagan was shot at this hotel. And I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank John Hinckley Jr., of course. And what a time.
God damn it.
I think I just publicly thanked John Hinckley Jr.
God damn it. All right.
man.
Anyway, so let's start off with. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to this year's Nova. I was at last year's, which was awesome, and I had to work from the hotel room. But this year, I just had too much going on with stuff, and I couldn't make it out. But you boys did, along with a lot of our other friends. I think you mentioned Jesse from Boring Conversation was there.
Yep,
Maeve,
Jesse and I took the train down. We saw
Maeve,
we saw Jim Dyson.
Jim Dyson was there. Yep.
Oh my gosh, so many people. A couple of the Scoundrels, a couple of the Ohio folks.
Most of the homies, like
all
most of the
all the
Malifaux,
homies.
and then
all the
Dice
awesome
was
folks.
Dice was freaking adminning the tournament. So like Dice was there, just chilling, like being a very level-headed, reasonable human all weekend, helping us get through it.
Dice?
Defective Dice, Jess?
Nope,
Jeff?
No,
Was not there.
no, not at all.
Oh, I see. Oh, no. Capital City Crew Jeff, not Dice Jeff.
Oh, got it.
Sorry, there are two. Just like there were 6,000 Nathans at this event, there are too many Jeffs in Malifaux. So no, it was Capital City Crew Jeff.
How many Doug B's are in the Malifaux community currently?
Also
like
55. There are actually only 4 names in Malifaux. They are Nathan, Doug, Jeff, and then every other name combined into
Everything
one
else. Got it.
syllable. And then things that end in Andon. That's it.
Interesting.
If
all right,
your name
so
isn't there, sign up now.
So, talk us through all of the different. Let's just touch on all of the different Malifaux happenings that happened at Nova, and then we'll jump into Nova. So, Brandon, do you want to give a quick overview of all of the different Malifaux things that?
So
happened?
we had a bunch of cool events, and I think more than anything else, we had the gameplay events. So the gameplay events, we had 2 5-round tournaments. We had both the Malifaux North American Faux Tour Masters Championship, which is the event that basically we've all been playing in tournaments all year to make it to, which is the event that we're talking and covering today. We also, though, had a Malifaux Grand Tournament Open event on Saturday and Sunday that was another 5 rounds of Malifaux. There was a Bonanza Brawl event on Friday at 8 p.m. If you don't know Bonanza Brawl, it's the super awesome format that was done by the Steam Powered Scoundrels, and it's a lot of fun if you ever get a chance to partake in one. There was a 3-round warm-up tournament for folks who were coming for the whole weekend but didn't make it to play in Masters. So they could play a 3-round warm-up tournament on Friday. So that was a thing that was happening. And then I think outside of the gameplay events, the one that was the coolest for me probably was the one that, if you've seen pictures on the internet, might have come from my phone, which was the Malifaux Design Studio Q&A, where we had a couple of the weird members who are working on the new book, Ashes of Malifaux, talk about and reveal about, I think, 8 total of the new models coming from the book, as well as answering all of our questions about various policy things and philosophy things, and the henchman program and what it's coming, Minions and Masters program, and all kinds of things. Not to mention there were a bunch of other mini events, I guess, or something, but mostly it was just Malifaux. I think everyone there was for that. Right? So that sort of covers it. There was a lot going on, obviously. I mean, Reagan got shot there. That was a really important thing.
Happened a little while ago, but
that didn't happen during the weekend at Nova. I think it was a couple days before or something. They had long enough to install a plaque. And then we had a lot of great food. That was totally a thing. We went out to eat with basically like 20 Malifaux basically every night. There was karaoke, as Landon and I can attest to. That sure is a thing that exists.
I love that. That's a thing
shout
now.
out to Owen.
That's great.
For making our karaoke dreams come true and letting us hang out in the presidential suite.
Yeah, that was great.
Where we also got a selfie, which might be in the video now if I get Landon's permission.
I mean, are you asking him for permission live, or is this like...
No, I don't think I'd ask. I don't think I'd put him on the spot like that.
No, I'm fairly certain he'll message me afterwards, and then I'll say yes or no.
Yeah, I'll message him afterwards, and then he'll either say yes or no.
Okay.
But there were a lot of happenings, both Malifaux and otherwise. I think the final numbers were just under 400 for the 40k GT. There was a Sigma GT. There was some Shatterpoint coverage stuff happening, which happened last minute. It was so last minute that I didn't even see it on any of the info and didn't know it was happening until I was on my way home. There was some Frostgrave. There was TT Combat was not there, which made me a little sad. So we didn't have any Rumble.
No Rumble Slam.
Lame.
Yeah.
Rumble Slam's the greatest game of all time ever, for any reason.
We played some Bayou Brawl, or no, Bayou Bash. Is that what's called? Bayou Bash? Bonanza Brawl?
Bayou Bash. Yeah, we played
Sorry,
Bayou
Bonanza
Bash.
Brawl's got my Bayou Bash all mixed up. And that was totally a thing with Nathan Linder. Thanks, Nathan, for bringing that. We played a lot of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. That was pretty good.
Yeah. No, it's a happy medium.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. So the event that we're going to cover today is the Masters event. That was a 5-round event. We're going to walk through a little bit of a preamble for each of the gentlemen on the phone here, and then we're going to go round by round. So as your preamble, Mr. Brandon, what faction did you declare? What was your general game plan going in? And that's all I need from you right now.
Yeah, buddy. So also, I guess I've established the new phrase where previously it was wild, and I don't, whatever my other catchphrases are. I now say yeah, buddy. So that's a thing. So yeah.
I don't think I can give you yeah, buddy is yours. That's existed forever.
Mr. Brandon, what faction did you play and why?
I played Falmouth, the city. What am I saying? I played Resurrectionists. That's what I was trying to say. So I played Resurrectionists, and my whole game plan was centered around the fact that I've only played Resers in one tournament. It was Gen Con, and I've only been really playing and getting demo games with them getting playtest games with them for a couple months now. If that, life's been sort of crazy over the summer, but I was confident with exclusively Von Stuck 2 and Seamus 1. And Seamus 1, I literally only had even a hope or a prayer. Doug and I got a good round of talking and sort of stuff beforehand. But Joe Pagararo, wherever you are, you Seamus, Seamusy boy, thank you so much for your considerable amount of encouragement and notes and like 3 2-hour phone calls that we had, specifically talking about Seamus regarding tips and strats. So thanks, huge shout out to Joe, huge inspiration, what a guy. And so Seamus and Von Stuck. So I was playing Resers, and I brought McMorning, Seamus, Von Stuck, Castor, all of Neverborn for Landon, but that's a different thing. And I was prepared to play Castor, Von Stuck and Seamus, specifically Von Stuck 2, Seamus 1. With a little bit, I almost played a Spicy McMorning one list, but we didn't get there.
Coward.
Coward. All right, Landon, what's the deal with the faction? And give us a high level on the Masters you were thinking about bringing.
Yeah, so if you've ever played me, you know that I play Thunders for the most part, and my bag is small, so I fit maybe 2 keywords in my bag. So I brought my 2 keywords in my bag, which was Honeypot and Qiangong. So Yoko 2 and Lynch. And that's pretty much my usual tournament circuit, is I bring those 2 and see what happens. And it usually works out.
And it's usually fun. All right, cool. So I guess let's start with round 1, right? Brandon, let's go first with you for literally no particular reason. So what was the, if you remember what the strat pool and deployment was?
I do. I have it all pulled up. So,
and who was your opponent and stuff, and how did it go? Just give us the high level. We don't obviously
Yeah.
need turn by turn.
So round 1 was standard cursed objects. So standard deployment cursed objects. We had secret meetup, hidden martyrs, in your face, leave your mark, and load them up. I know I had chosen leave your mark and hidden martyrs because I was playing Von Stuck 2, and he's great at both of those. And I was playing against T-Ball, for those who are in the know. He's one of the Ohio guys, and he's a heck of a Lynch player.
So did he play Lynch 1 or 2?
No, he played Lynch. He played Lynch 2. Sorry, he played Hungering Darkness. Let me rephrase. He played Hungering Darkness with Second Master Jacob Lynch 2 and Third Master Shenlong 2. 1. Sorry, Shenlong 1.
Wild.
Spicy.
Yeah. The Masters event had no restrictions. It was just Malifaux, play with Malifaux, do rules. And so Masters were allowed, Second Masters were allowed, and the Second Master that he chose in this crew was Shenlong 1, who did a lot of stuff.
So give us the high level of kind of how the game went and how the game ended up from a scoring standpoint.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I believe that we got to turn 4, and as we were called to time, I have never played against Jacob Lynch 2, and it was a lot of what is happening that I just had no idea. And there was a lot of Shenlong happening that was doing a lot of movement and a lot of cheating and a lot of focusing. So we did not finish the game, and we drew 3-3.
Okay. And do you remember the schemes that he took?
I do not remember the schemes that he took. I believe
had
that
leave your mark, hidden martyrs. You had hidden martyrs in your face.
I had leave your mark, not in your face.
Yeah, I think it was the other way around.
Well, then it was the other way around. I'm just looking at what the Longshanks has.
Oh, Longshanks has it. Yeah, we did it. Yeah, I think in your face sounds correct. And I believe that what had happened was nothing died. Or almost nothing died. Nothing of relevance died. So we ended up 3-3.
Got it. All right, cool. So you ended up with a tie for the first round. Mr. Pope the Pope, why don't you walk us through who you ran into as an opponent in your first round, what was the matchup, and how did it go? Just give us the high notes, Pope.
Yeah, so I got an exciting treat. I got to play someone who is representing all of Canada at Nova this year. On Longshanks, he's Bryn WKK. I feel like I should remember his name, but it's eluding me at the moment. So we'll go with that. I won 7-2, so that means I've beaten all of Canada. He was playing Nelly 1, I was playing Yoko 2. Mm-hmm. And I think he might have been shaking off the dust a little bit, or maybe it was just the fact that we were starting so early in the morning. Neither of us had our coffee yet, so it was a bit of a wake-up game. But we both took Hidden Martyrs. I took Secret Meetup because there was this big piece of block and terrain on the board. Most of the boards were a little spicy in one way or the other, which was always a little neat. He ended up taking Leave Your Mark, as you do with Nelly, since it's easy for you to just kind of park in the center and tell your opponent they can't make markers there. But I ended up attritioning really well with Fuhatsu, as is my plan A with Yoko. And he ends up losing his Pale Rider pretty early. Some bad flips on his part, good flips on my part. But generally speaking, Nelly into cursed objects is a cute trick, but if you die before you get to pass the cursed tokens off, it doesn't go well.
Yeah. if you die too early, things get bad real fast. Okay, so any highlights or other notes from round 2 before we swing to from round 1 before we swing back over to Mr. Lane for the round 2 start?
Yeah, I'm not remembering anything exceptional as far as fun moments from that game. It was a fairly standard game, I'd say.
Okay, it's fine by me. Mr. Lane, bring us into round 2, please.
So, in round 2 of the Masters Invitational, I played against Wolfbun.
That's an awesome name.
I think
Grant, I think, is his actual name.
Yeah, Grant is his actual name. If you have ever been to a Malifaux event that were like a bigger one, you've seen him because he's the one who always cosplays as either Von Stuck or as Ivan, English Ivan. And he was, I think, I know he wore both costumes throughout the weekend, but I believe that when we were playing, he was dressed as a Von Stuck. Or it might have been Ivan. Maybe he just wore Ivan. I don't remember. Point being, I played Wolfbun. I played him to a very rousing 3-3 draw. We were in almost all blocking sort of crazy hazardous ice board. Not hazardous, but there was like a big river. It was not good.
Who were the masters?
I was playing Professor Von Stuck 2, and he played Jackdaw 2. Jackdaw sold, and we're both on Rezzers for the event, so he was playing Jackdaw 2 out of Rezzers, and I played Von Stuck, and I hired Manos, and I staggered some dudes, and we sort of went around and did some things, but it was sort of a slapfest, and nothing really happened, and right at the end of the game, I think was poised to have another point for. Oh, I guess we didn't talk about the scheme pool. The scheme pool was flank carve a path, and
for real this time.
For flank carve a path for real, and it was public demonstration, assassinate, hidden martyrs, set the trap, and sabotage. And we both chose hidden martyrs, set the trap. And he spent his whole game trying to stop me from setting the trap, and I spent my whole game trying to set the trap.
Ooh.
And then I think the big deal I think in our game was that I think he got 1-1-1, and I think if I remember correctly, was gonna get 4, but then he killed both of my hidden martyrs in the same turn, which was less ideal than I had imagined it would have been.
Yeah, that doesn't sound amazing.
I had Valedictorian and one of my enslaved spirits, and I was trying to get the Valedictorian to get murdered on a Gwissin the whole game, and it just didn't happen.
So game ended out 3-3. So 3-3. Round 2, you are 0-0 or 0-2-0, right? That's the score.
0-0-2, I think.
Or 0-0-2. Yeah. Hilarious.
0-0-2. Undefeated as of round 2.
Undefeated as of round 2.
I don't know if I can say the same thing about Landon, but.
Well, let's find out. Mr. Landon, talk to me about round 2.
So I was undefeated after round 2. I matched into Roman Heckenberger of Scoundrels fame.
Roman's a good dude. I like Roman.
My second game against Roman, I've been to a ton of his events, or the Scoundrels events out in Des Moines. So we're always at the same tournaments. It's just we rarely get to play each other. Well, we fixed that this year. And he was thirsting for revenge after defeat at the hand of my Taylor-led crew in the charity event they ran earlier this year. So
yeah, didn't they run a really cool fuck you cancer event, basically like a fundraiser for
that's exactly
kids
what it was.
with cancer?
And it was such a great time. If you ever have a chance to go out to any of the Scoundrel events, I recommend you go. They're the great minds that brought us the Bonanza Brawl, so check them out. But yeah, I was playing against Roman. He decides to drop English Ivan 1, which I think is one of his mainstays, and he has this really cool like Spike Spiegel painted in like green stuffed type crew up, where he's got little corgis on all the bases. It's great. So he plays that. I play Lyoko 2 again, and I pretty much play exactly the same list I played in round 1, with the exception of adding a Charm Warder, because you're playing against Ivan, you bring a Charm Warder. It's just what you do. And I think the thing that really punctuates this game for me is turn 1, I get into the Vernon and Wells he took to carve the path. I kill it. It's one of his martyrs, but he doesn't say that until I think turn 2 or 3, where he forgets that I killed it on turn 1, and he tries to announce martyrs. I'm like, I killed that on turn 1 ages ago, and he's like, oh dang, it's turn 3. That was turn 1. That feels so long ago. But yeah, it was pretty bloody game. Bill kind of just like rips Ivan out of his shadow nest with "You're coming with me," and then I beat the crap out of him for my assassinate points. We both took hidden martyrs, but he doesn't score any points on martyrs, and he never kills my martyr, so I think I have to get a cheeky endgame point with Geo on it. The last highlight I remember from this game is I used covering fire for probably the first time on Fuhatsu in my full career. I have pushing carve markers, and
I have yet for that to be relevant, and I'm waiting for the day that I can have covering fire be relevant on my Fuhatsu.
It was so good in that game that I was playing with Roman that earlier in the game he had tools up a black joker from his discard in exchange for some other crappy card, and I shoot one of his models with Fuhatsu, and he cheats down to the black joker to make me hit because covering fire would deny him a point.
That's crazy.
And that's a Malifaux achievement right there.
That's a wild play. That's crazy. That's awesome.
So it was a memorable game. Thank you.
Do you remember the score?
7-3 to me.
Okay, cool. So you're 2-0. All right, let's loop it back around. Mr. Lane, going into round 3.
Yeah, round 3 was the end of day 1 of us being at Nova. So this was Thursday evening, and I had the pleasure to play Sebastian Pedrino, who would later on go on to, with the models that the crew that he fought me against, win Best Painted at Masters.
What was the pool? First of all, I think that's important. Probably to mention up front.
Yeah. So the pool was it was
Flank covert.
All right, calm down. Yeah, corner deployment. Right? Covert?
Flank.
Corner.
No, it was corner.
Yeah,
wasn't
corner.
it?
It was corner.
I don't know why it's flank on the Wellingshanks, but yeah, I agree. It was corner for sure.
It was definitely corner. So we have corner covert operations with public demonstration, in your face, vendetta, breakthrough, and spread them out. So I had, at this point, had played only Von Stuck 2 and was looking to change it up, especially when I had a Bayou Master for an opponent. I wasn't sure what he would be playing, but I know some of the Bayou pretty well. And so I decided to go into them with Seamus. So I played Seamus 1. My plan was to play sort of a bubble crew. And then he said it was that he had declared Ophelia. And then I was like, oh, okay, I guess we're not doing that plan. And we were playing on this sort of like old train minery.
Ophelia 1 or 2?
He ended up playing Ophelia 2.
Into your Seamus 1?
Into my Seamus 1. And we were playing on this like sort of train sort of reboard, and he hadn't played Ophelia 2 in a while. So I think we ended up getting to turn 3 before we were finished. And out of time, we had just finished turn 3. So we ended 3-3. And I took breakthrough and spread them out, which was certainly a decision. And he took public demonstration and spread them out. And I don't remember a lot about the game because I would go on to play 7 more rounds of Malifaux. But I remember Sebastian was a lovely opponent. We had a great time, and his Bo Fishbacher is probably the best painted Malifaux model I've ever seen, period. It was a Bo Fishbacher, and he had meticulously on the map that he's holding up, free-handed a very risque sketch of not the little lass. What's her name? Trixie Belle.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And it was a wildly.
So he's looking at a NSFW Trixie Belle picture on his model, basically.
So. Yep.
Nice.
And you could only see it if you held the model in a very, very specific angle. What a bow! If you're ever against Sebastian or at a tournament where he's brought some Bayou models, definitely ask to take a look at his Bo Fishbacher. It's amazing.
Hey, nice Bo Fishbacher. Can I bring that to the bathroom for a second? I'll be right back.
Yeah. And then
Nice.
I hope not. That's how I ended the first day of Masters undefeated.
So round 3 ends also a tie.
Also
so
a
you're
draw.
0-3-0.
0-3.
We're both undefeated, yeah.
Yep. So Landon and I think at this point, the only 2 undefeated players in the tournament.
All right, so Landon, why don't you give us your round 3?
Yeah, so my round 3, I played against good old Jim Dyson, and I was looking for revenge after my humiliating defeat at Captain Con. This time he was playing Neverborn as opposed to Bayou, so I had a little bit of a break as he wasn't on his winning faction, as it seems. At least as far as I know, Jim Dyson isn't an Everborn main, but he also plays a little bit of everything. So
I think Jim is kind of like me. I mean, but he's just a better player than I am. But he's kind of like me in that he plays a lot of different factions. But I know he plays Outcast. I know he plays Bayou.
yeah, he plays a little bit of everything. Cause I think
I
he
know
even
he
had
plays a
Mei
little
Fang
bit of
for a
Guild
bit.
or messes around with Guild a little bit sometimes. So
I almost bought his Make Fang crew off him when he was trying to pair down, but that's beside the point.
You
He
should
was
have. He's a
playing
good player.
Dreamer 2 today, and I was playing once again Yoko 2.
Yeah.
The board we were playing on was kind of interesting in that there wasn't a lot of like line of sight blockers or like concealing or anything, but there was a shit ton of things that just blocked charge lanes, like a lot of height 1 walls that were just really annoying. Like you ever see the chest high wall meme in like video games? That's what it felt like, because I was trying to like set up charge lanes for Hinamatsu to go down and start like tearing things up, and there's just a height 1 wall in the way, and I'm looking at this thing going, what the hell is this doing here? No matter which way you went. So it was interesting in that regard. I took Vendetta load him up, he took In Your Face load him up. We both took load him up on schemes, which was funny, I think. Let's see now. I also took Vendetta on Capellius, I think, which was a spicy choice by Jim.
That's a spicy choice.
But anyways, I think a lot of the game comes down to a particular turn where I get to back-to-back, end of turn activation attack Dreamer 2 with Hinamatsu, and then top of the next turn attack Dreamer 2 with Hinamatsu. And you get enough attacks into anything with Hinamatsu, and it usually dies, especially with no reductions like Dreamer 2 does. But it was a real close thing. I think I needed every single one of those attacks to put him down. But once he was down, it was tough for him.
Do you remember what the final score was?
7-1.
Yeah, I mean, because he was playing Dreamer 2, and what I've found at least is like, in the Dreamer 2 world, once Dreamer 2 goes away, that crew can struggle without him.
Yeah, I think I also stranded
battle.
2 or 3 of his 13s in the ether when I did that.
Ooh.
So it was even more of a kick in the dick.
Yeah, that's rough. It's also really feel bad when you're playing against Yoko and she like 2 turns in a row rips 13s out of your deck and you're like, God damn it. Then she like rips another one and you're like, okay, well I have like 1 13 and a red joker left in my deck.
I didn't have that action go off all that frequently over my 4 games of Yoko this weekend, but I'm usually happy to let that one fail.
The black stain, because you need I find that I have to like spend a soul stone to make that go off. What we're talking about, by the way, so that folks can follow along at home, is on her action that reveals cards, if you get a mask trigger, it's called Black Stain, and what that allows you to do is rip a card out of play, like fully
it
out
removes
of
it
play.
from the game, which for the Dreamer 2 is actually a benefit most of the time, because it actually just adds it to their out of the game pile. But sometimes you can use it to get cheeky, like unburies when he's not expecting to unbury. It didn't come up in this game, but I was keenly aware of it.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess we're bringing it back around, and you ended up winning. So you're 3-0. Brandon is 0-0, and I think it's 0-0-3.
Neither of us has lost yet, so we basically have the same record.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Basically both undefeated.
Yep, Landon and I ended day 1. We did it. So of course we go out to celebrate. No, just kidding. That was actually Friday night or Saturday night that we went out to celebrate. But
no, instead we went out to get Thai food, and my next round opponent was the one who suggested the restaurant. I got food poisoning there, so clearly he poisoned me.
Yikes. All right, guys. So let's get on to round 4. So Brandon, why don't you give us the scheme pool for round 4, who your opponent was, and what you guys were both playing?
So in round 4, we were playing Wedged Cursed Objects. So this was the duplicate strategy. And we played Catch and Release Hidden Martyrs, Set the Trap, Break Through, and Load them up. And at this point, I was pretty confident that I needed to go in for the win. And by that, I mean the draw. So I was really actively and aggressively attempting to draw every round to break Landon's streak. I had heard was 3, which I would succeed momentarily because my opponent in round 4 was Maeve, and we ended the game 6-6. So after a good night of sleep, I decided actually I could finish games as it turns out, and we were playing both. Maeve was playing Castor. And I had decided to declare.
She was playing as Neverborn, right? She showed up with Neverborn.
Maeve was on Neverborn that weekend. Yep. So Maeve was on Neverborn. I was on Seamus. Seamus 1, and of course Maeve was on Castor 2. Maeve took a really, really interesting list against me that I was not expecting. So it was Castor, Marathene, 2 Cavern Nephilims, Angel Eyes, which of course you do, and Lucius 2. So that was it. That was all 6 models, including the free totem that Maeve had for the entire game. And I would go on to try and do Cursed Objects, Hidden Martyrs, and Breakthrough, because Breakthrough is a no-brainer with Seamus. Yeah, it was a real bloody game. Everything died all the time. We basically had traded deployment zones by round 2, with the exception of like my small contingent of models that were hiding behind a house from Castor. I just tried to bubble up as best I could to get all of the negative willpower auras, and just put people in neg flips for terrifying, because I took two of the Doxies or Doxy and a Bell, both with Grave Spirit's Touch. And it sort of worked out. There was a little bit of confusion as to the scheme pool, which helped out in my favor. In the end, we ended with 6-6.
All right, cool.
Yeah, buddy.
Mr. Landon, what you got for round 4?
So round 4, my opponent was like really convinced I was going to take Yoko 2 again after 3 games of Yoko 2, and I like to keep people on their toes. So I picked I picked Lynch 2. And this just completely threw off the janky Lucius 1 list he was going to play, so he played Lucius 2 instead in a perfectly respectable decision, if somewhat cowardly. But this was against Nathan Hoyle, who I chat with reasonably. He loaned me his guild stuff last year at Nova, which was a great time. So we're friends, I think.
Well, you were friends before
we were
this
friends.
Cowardly accusation.
Well, when he took me out to a restaurant and had me poisoned to increase his chances of winning the next round, that was the cowardly point. But
I just respect that, honestly.
That just sounds like a great strategy.
Yeah,
it was a pretty good strategy.
Right, honestly.
And to be honest, the food was really good, so I don't even mind being poisoned.
Yikes.
But anyways, I play Lynch 2 into his Lucius 2, and he uses Lucius 2 in a really interesting way that I hadn't really tried myself before. And late in turn 1, he just gets into range to just down the wrong path Lynch 2 twice towards his deployment, and I'm starting round 2 with Lynch nowhere near the rest of my models, and in his deployment surrounded by his entire beefy list of guild boys, Watson, White Eyes, a Peacekeeper, because you got to play a Peacekeeper.
You got to play a Peacekeeper, of course.
And like a guild lawyer or something that wasn't as tanky. But anyways, I'm scared because Lynch is not where he's supposed to be. And I end up luckily having drawn the red Joker off of tools from a shot my opponent took early in turn 1, which is just funny. And I'm able to win initiative and go first and just kind of rig damage for the red Joker to kill White Eyes right away. But then right after that, Lynch 2 just eats a bunch of attacks and dies. So turn 2, is done, and I've traded Lynch for a Peacekeeper and a White Eyes. And I'm not certain if that trade is in my favor or not, but I'm feeling on that shaky level of okay. But what really, really sells it for me is in the middle of turn 3. Towards the end of it, really, my opponent has Watson and Lucius standing next to each other. I can't remember I think they had just finished off something else turn 2. After they had just killed my master turn 2. And Sadir activates, and I'm like, okay, I've got 2 focus. I'm just going to take some random pot shots into Watson, see what happens, because I've got to go, right? And I hit red Joker damage on my shot versus Watson, blasting 3 onto Lucius. And I had the trigger to shoot again, so I'm like, all right, well, might as well shoot Lucius with my trigger to shoot again. He black Jokers the defense. I get a severe on the damage flip to just blast another 3 onto Watson, kill Watson because he only has 7 wounds now, or 8 wounds now. And Lucius is just sitting there having eaten 9 points of damage from 1 attack on Sadir. And I'm feeling like, yeah, this is what Jokers do. Thank you, Sadir. You are a great model. I think I shoot him one more time for insult and slow him. And that's pretty much where the game goes. clean up from there. But it was just an insanely lucky turn from Sadir that really swings it for me.
So what was
I
the
had
final
taken
score?
hidden martyrs and breakthrough. I scored 7 points, 2 points on my breakthrough, 1 point on martyrs. He had scored martyrs and set the trap. I think he got 1 on cursed, 1 on martyrs, and 0 on set. So he might have gotten 2 on cursed. I think he got 2 on cursed.
So 7-3.
7-3.
Okay, sounds good. Mr. Lane, round 5. Take us home, baby. What was the scheme pool? Who was your opponent? What did you declare? What did they declare?
So round 5 was the guard the stash on standard deployment, catch and release, secret meetup, assassinate, leave your mark, and spread them out. It was a wild game. I was actually playing against one of Landon's early rounds opponent, Mr. Heckenberger, who is the man who took it all from me. Effectively. So we were doing stuff for sure. There was a game going on. I think in the end I ended up.
What did he declare? What did you declare?
I took leave your mark and catch and release, and I had taken Von Stuck 2, and he took Lucas McCabe because he was playing Explorers, so he took McCabe 2, and he went for catch and release as well, but spread them out. And it was a real back and forth game, and there was stuff happening and things dying left and right. At one point, Von Stuck charged a model, which is wild. That's a thing. I ran him up the board, I think round 3, and just like started punching things into a big melee right in the center. But at the end of the day, I think it came down to the final activation where I needed to. I think we finished round 4. And we were not going to get. We had started round 5, but we didn't quite finish round 5 because we got last activationed. And I had to get my second point of catch and release by getting my model out. But I punched Desper in like a rush right at the end, who leapt aside to place within base contact of my catch and release model, which denied me the draw.
That's rough.
And so Roman took everything from me, and now I'm out for blood. Probably not really, but maybe I'm out for a good rematch sometime, because it was an excellent game, and he's a gentleman and a scholar.
Cool.
But out for blood nonetheless.
So you're a perfect undefeated record.
My perfect record was dashed and destroyed by this Roman Heckenberger steam powered scoundrels. Oh man, I gotta get it back.
So I guess
what was done.
You have, it's funny because you played, you now have a bunch of Von Stuck 2 reps, and with the Halloween crew, or the fall crew coming out, the alt crew, I'm actually picking him up because it's the only Reser Master other than Dougie that I don't own. So I'm like really keen to get some reps in on Stuck 2. What's your takeaway with Stuck 2? Because I already know Seamus, right? I've played 100 games with Seamus. What's your takeaway on Stuck 2 as a master at a serious boy tournament? Like, what are any takeaway thoughts?
So he's very flexible. There's a lot that he can do. He has a very diverse keyword. At the end of the day, I don't think that he has any bad models in his keyword. He has some that basically never see play because a lot of the models are just way better. But like, you basically can't go wrong hiring both of his henchmen and 2 students of Viscera sometime. And most of the time, if I'm not going against an insanely murdery or precise crew, I'll just put Grave Spirit's Touch on them because it gives them terrifying regen and blasphemous ritual if you need it. But I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. Like, out of keyword nurse is great, but like the keyword by itself, Von Stuck 2 does almost everything that Von Stuck 1 wants to do, except for some of the upgrade stuff, which like is really important. He's a different sort of different card, right? He has different,
and his
rules
onboard scoring flexibility is insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the fact that he can drop a marker, which is only going to get better as marker schemes come back in GG4, assuming that happens. He's really hard to shift. He's hard to wound, so he's always at negatives to damage. He has Head in the Clouds, so him and anyone within 3 are at negatives to willpower. He has an ability that lets all of your dudes, when they fail in action, get plus flips for the rest of the activation.
Yeah, that's
6
wild.
Of him. So he can also sort of bubble up into this insanely, they had better focus punch you once bubble, because if they don't, multiple attacks are just missing. He's real good. He's got a lot of stuff, and Studied Opponent, which is his like crew special ability, it just gives you such a lot. It gives you a like consistent like 2 to 4 cards a turn, depending on how much interaction you're doing. But the thing that I have found often is that opponents really like fall for the trap of, oh well, I'm going to cheat down to a different card to stop you from drawing, which is the same thing as me drawing a card, really. Because it puts hand pressure on you, which is what me drawing cards really does. And so like there's just leave Studied Opponent alone. Don't try and make me miss that, because I'm going to get it enough that it's not going to matter to me, and it is going to matter to you when you have no cards left at the end of the turn. And I have like 2 or 3 models natively with execute triggers.
Spicy.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Landon, round 5. What you got?
So I play a 10 Thunders to be around 5, and I'm thinking to myself, oh crap, this means 10 Thunders is going to get nerfed in the next errata.
Yeah, buddy. They are indeed.
So I end up playing Yoko 2 for my last game into Jerry McPosner's Lin Lee 2. I had not seen Lin Lee on the table before, nor had I played Jeremy in a game. It was a good game, and he was an excellent gentleman about trying to remind me of all the stuff that was going on. I even fuck up something with by the book, and we come up to a reasonable solution on that. So, despite the fact that there's some unfamiliarity going around, we still play a really good game of Malifaux. It ends 3-1, pretty low scoring game,
That's a
which
really
Guard the
low-scoring
Stash
game.
can do.
Yeah.
But I end up taking a lot of time in the early game just trying to figure out how to disassemble the Lin Lee bubble, because I've never done it before.
Yeah.
And I had thought about asking my opponent to borrow his Lone Swordsman before the game, but decided that ultimately wasn't appropriate. He told me he totally would have loaned it to me, and I believed that, but ultimately I ended up playing Fuhatsu instead, which was a mistake. I think the guy did nothing for most of the game, given that shooting into the Lin Lee bubble, unless you hit a severe, you're doing 1 point of damage.
Can you help us understand, for the folks at home, what you mean by that with the specific abilities?
Sure. So with Lin Lee 2, there's 2 essentially what I would call premier models that you'll see in the crew to kind of create this bubble effect. One of which is the story of Raijin, who puts up a 3-inch aura of guns do 2 less damage to all of your models. Mm-hmm. And the other one is the story of, I'm going to get this wrong, so I'll just say Than. Just like this little kid on a horse, and he has the ability to take the hit from 6 inches away once per turn. Mm-hmm. And armor 1 soulstones, yada yada. The combination of these 2 models creates a crew that's incredibly frustrating to put damage into from range.
Yep.
So I was trying to figure out how to pick apart this bubble. And ultimately, it takes a long time to get there, but I eventually grind stuff out. Because there's a reasonable amount of healing in the crew as well. The Master heals for 2 and removes conditions. Map heals. Map being, I think, another one of her henchmen. So going into turn 5, I had 0 points. Because I was just spending a lot of time trying to get rid of my opponent's models. And succeeding, but not with as much success as I'd like. Just because of how tanky the crew is. But likewise, he's not doing too terribly much to me, because most of the crew is just kind of there to tank and score points. Luckily, we're so kind of locked in combat that he's not exactly getting to pull out and score either. So we're kind of just met in the center in this like deadlock for Guard the Stash, so no one's really scoring strat points.
Yeah, that's interesting. 3-1 is a very low scoring game for me to hear from you. I mean, that must have been a very, very, very grindy game.
Yeah, it was a tight game. Definitely came down to the last turn by a significant amount. Jeremy gave me a great game, and he's only been playing apparently for like a little more than a year, so it's impressive. I look forward to playing him more. But
yeah,
ultimately, I took Assassinate, Secret Meetup. He took Secret Meetup, spread them out. He would have had 2 points, but he took Secret Meetup on Yoko, and that's not legal. So, bit of an oops. But luckily, it wasn't the point that decided the game, so that was good. I got my Secret Meetup points. I got an Assassinate point through some good flipping, because that's kind of what you have to do into Lin Lee, since she cancels your triggers if you cheat. And then I finally was able to eke out 1 point of guard, so we ended at 3-1. It was a
And
Tight game.
ends the tournament for you at 5-0, and you end up winning Masters effectively.
Yep, as the only undefeated player.
So let me ask you this.
I was almost there.
You
with
were so
Landon.
close,
I was
Brandon.
so close. Point off.
So let me ask you this, Landon. Very similar to the question I asked Brandon about Von Stuck 2. Obviously, you play a hell of a lot of Yoko 2. I have actually started playing a lot of Yoko 2 as a result of, I also think she's incredibly strong right now. It's very likely that's one of the primary maskers I bring to the Lone Star event in Texas.
Yep.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown on how does Yoko 2 work? Why is she so powerful right now, in your opinion? And what makes her able to go to an event like this, like a very serious event, and just kind of run Yoko 2? Like, I think we both agree if you'd wanted to, you could have just soloed Yoko 2 into this, right? You didn't need to run Lynch. Yeah.
She can go in all fields pretty effectively. And the reason for this is that she kind of just gives you a really big toolbox, and you just kind of go into the Thunder's faction, which I call the toolbox faction, and pick out what you want for whatever game you're playing. Because the primary thing she does is just gives you resources to funnel into your crew. She draws you 13s from your discard pile, she pushes around the guys you hired, and she gives you pass tokens so that you can have the guys you hired go when you want them to go. And so people ask me, like, why do you think that, Yoko 2's got such a bad win rate on long chains relative to your success? And, it takes a little bit of time to just kind of figure out what you need to be doing to play the game.
I think
it's a very fundamentals-oriented master.
Yeah, I think in my experience, because I now have probably about 30 reps on Yoko 2 in the last probably 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say when I started to really start to do well with her was just manipulating the turn such that you get the last 3 to 4 activations. And I think another thing to call out is she just natively hires some of the most powerful models in 10 Thunders. So she's not paying attacks on Bill or Hinamatsu. And granted, I know what you're saying.
Charm Warders.
Or Charm Warders or Kanachi. Like, everything in her keyword is nuts. Like, a lot of these models. And no, I know Hinamatsu isn't perfect in every pool, but she's really good in more pools than she's not. So I feel like when I'm playing Yoko 2, at least, it's very much a game that's centered around Bill and Hinamatsu getting to the right models very quickly, and then just starting to remove models, right? And like, what you taught me a lot about the game is a lot of the lists that I play are kind of derivatives of what you schooled me in, right? So when I show up with Yoko 2, it's Yoko 2, Chio, Bill, Hinamatsu, Konechi 1 or 2, Konechi 1 or 2, and then like to taste. But a lot of it has been Raijin, because of the ability when you move Raijin, he pulses that duel, and I found that to be really, really good. I've also tried out Monkey as a proactive disruption piece. I also run Fuhatsu sometimes, just like you do. So, and any thoughts around like how you build the structure of the list and the nice to haves and the need to haves?
Yeah, we've got a really good video on it up on the Danger Planet channel if you're curious for a 2-hour in-depth review. But the quick notes would be that I usually grab Fuhatsu or either Fuhatsu or Lone Swordsman, both of my henchmen, which is Hinamatsu and Bill, and then either 1 or 2 Kunoichi, depending on whether or not I need a Charm Warder, and then a Terracotta Warrior just to kind of fill space. And then there's a couple lists of random tech hires you can go down the list to try and figure out for specific matchups. Like for Nephilim, I tend to bring an extra gun instead of Hinamatsu, just because Blackblood and Hinamatsu don't chill. So that's kind of what I mean when I say that you go grab the tools in your box that you need, is that you just kind of like figure out what your opponent does and then take the best model in 10 Thunders to do that. But to your point, the reason why I actually started playing Yoko 2 so much instead of Lynch is because band formats became really popular in the last year or two, and most of like the good options you would be reaching for in faction happen to be in your keyword to begin with. So why not just play the keyword that gets the good models?
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is be playing a bands format and then just like need a Charm Warder and not be able to get one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Her keyword is very wrapped up in and of itself. I mean, I think the one like Altair is that one slot that you talked about that either becomes Fuhatsu or Lone Swordsman or like whatever else. Like sometimes that slot is also Sadir, or sometimes you take both Fuhatsu and Sadir. Those are spicy lists.
And part of it's a function of the GG that we're currently in, as her crew doesn't scheme terribly well. Like none of them have, aside from Yoko 2 herself, have abilities that just let you drop scheme markers. So you usually have to go out of keyword for something like that if you need it.
So I think that's a really good inflection point, Mr. Pope. And I'll pose this to both of you guys, right? Both Landon and Brandon. Now that we've kind of reached the tournament season and we're at the fringe of Gaining Grounds 3 kind of transitioning into Gaining Grounds 4. And Brandon, you mentioned this even as well when you were describing your Von Stuck 2 spiel and like how you're looking forward to him being able to just basically shoot scheme markers across the board. How do you guys feel the competitive Malifaux meta, or I guess, what are you hoping to see from the transition from Gaining Grounds 3 to the transition for Gaining Grounds 4? And what do you guys, how do you guys think that that's going to be affected? What are your thoughts now that we're kind of on the end of the GG3 cycle? We've kind of lived through GG3. And I guess we'll start with Mr. Brandon.
I want to see interacting be a thing again. We have a lot of things that care about ski markers specifically in specific places, although some of them are a little bit competitive, which is cool. And I do like things like In Your Face, where you can only score it if your opponent doesn't have it, which sort of makes you be in a position where you have to remove your opponent's.
You mean leave your mark?
What did I say?
You said In Your Face.
I do that with them all the time. I do mean leave your mark. Like one of the things that we just don't have in this scheme pool is an interact strat, and we don't have a lot of interaction in any of the schemes as far as stuff you got to do. You can sort of get around it with models that let you just drop scheme markers outside of the normal. I'll take an interact action to drop a scheme marker, that kind of sort of puts a lot of crews that have a lot of sort of points spent in those things, like Colette, for an example, or models with Don't Mind Me, in kind of a bad way. We have a couple of schemes that you have to sort of interact with, or strategies rather, that you have to interact with, because we have Carver Path and we have like Cursed Objects, which are both ones that ideally you want to be interacting with, but you can do them both in combat, which sort of cheapens Colette as a faction, quite frankly, and a few other things. So something that's a little bit more interaction focused would be nice. I do like a lot of the fact that you don't have to have a super high mobility crew to play a lot of the strats in this, but a lot of them are you have to have some models be a place, and it would be nice to have a better mix of that as well, rather than just have everybody just sort of be a place and not do stuff. So I guess that's sort of it. I do like Carver Path. I hope we have something along those lines where we have like markers that are going back and forth. But I will say it is particularly demoralizing to marker-based crews when in the past 2 books we've had like all of the generic marker removal like doubled or tripled in every faction, and we have a strat that says just straight up remove markers, because it makes playing the crews that care about them a lot less valuable.
I think that's fair. I think that's a reasonable...
it's coming from somebody who started the game on Titania.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Landon, same question. Kind of, what are your thoughts at the tail end of GG3 here from a competitive standpoint? What are you hoping to see out of GG4? And any other, thoughts on the competitive Malifaux meta currently as it is, or maybe what it's about to transform into, because obviously we all kind of know that GG4 is right on the horizon.
Well, I was going to give a thermonuclear take saying that I really liked a couple of things about GG3, but I think Brandon covered most of the things that I actually did like about GG3, which is that it created a interesting space for models that didn't really have one before, where you didn't necessarily have to be the fastest model in your faction or the tankiest model in your faction. So long as you could like walk and take interacts, you could do things. Like, you didn't even need to be the trickiest model to do that. You just had to be able to like be there and push a carve marker. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really neat, because I don't know that we've really gotten anything like that before. Because for most of the interact strats, you have to be able to have like Don't Mind Me or whatever if you want to do it anywhere relevant, or you have to be like the tankiest model in the world to not die in order to get value. And stuff like Guard the Stash and Carver Path really, I think, turned that around. The unfortunate alternative is that it ended up making the game very combat focused, which I think a lot of people are burned out on by now. It was
very killing.
novel at first because we hadn't had that in a while. But I think if Weird can find a good happy middle ground between like not needing to have the like all of the correct tech to be good, but also still making that tech useful, which seems like a really hard balance to like strike, and I don't envy Weird for needing to try and get that. But we'll have a really good GG if they can figure out how to get that balance. Like I gave Brandon a really spicy McMorning 1 list that I actually think could have won a GG3 game despite his protests.
It was a spicy list.
That had 3 guild autopsies in it, and that wasn't the spicy part.
Yeah, so this conversation was very, very lengthy, but the brief point is I have never played against Von Schill before, and I was expecting that my round 4 opponent in the Open was going to be playing Von Schill. He did, and we had a great game. He was a lovely guy. Ray, if you're listening, thanks for playing a hell of a game. But people were giving me various advice, and at dinner, people had almost talked me into playing McMorning 1 with none of his keyword models, so that I could have
Precise.
basically just precise and just go in and open up his models, and that was certainly a decision. But the McMorning ramen plan, it was McMorning with Manos, Anna, 2 nurses, and a Kentori, doing none of the poison synergy, just ride with me, McMorning in, and then murder stuff, maybe a spirit. The planned in list, it would have been, maybe I'll play that at some point. The planned in list, which was the Landon plan, of course, was McMorning, 3 K9 Remains, 3 Little Gassers, 3 Guild Autopsies, and Sebastian. The idea was I could summon new models if I wanted, because all of my models would die immediately on turn 1.
That's at least what Brandon saw when he saw the list. He didn't see the genius.
Yeah.
I mean, is this as good or worse than 7 Steam Arachnids in a Trenchcoat list?
I think it's worse than 7 Steam Arachnids in a Trenchcoat, and it certainly was better than... doing this would have been a better plan than sitting at that table for those extra few minutes for Owen to wander over and let us know karaoke was happening.
That's hilarious. Cool. I think this was great. Gentlemen, I appreciate you both being on your best behavior and contributing both intellectually and some hilarity to the situation. I guess the last thing we have to do is just say goodbye to the internet. So, boys, why don't you say goodbye to the internet?
Are we saying hello to Texas?
Oh, yeah, we are saying hello. Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Sorry. If anybody is listening to this out there in the great nether void of the internet, folks should consider checking out Doug Bowman's event, the Lone Star Foxdown. All 3 of us are actually going to be there. I already have my tickets. I already have my hotel booked. It is a 3-day event. It is from October 13th through 15th. He is running multiple Malifaux events at the Dragon's Lair, which is a really, really nice, really, really kitted out game store in Houston. They've got like a full bar. They've got tons of tables. Doug, as of time of recording, has 43 people signed up already and has made a custom Malifaux deck for those that register and show up. Doug is both a graphic designer as well as a digital sculptor, as well as a normal just artist.
You do need to sign up sooner rather than later. There will be a point where you won't get this deck for free with sign up any longer. So if you're going to sign up for this event, which is happening in early October, strong recommendation, sign up right now, book your tickets. They have a room rate that's really good, and I would strongly recommend going so we can see you and hang out where we're having our very own karaoke event.
We are. The Dragon's Lair has agreed to host Danger Planet Karaoke Night. And we will be handing out
it's at the game place?
It's at the tavern, which is I don't think it's the game place. I think it's attached.
Yeah, but we will also be handing out prizes in the form of alcohol. So if you guys like alcohol and you like Malifaux,
or prizes,
come on down. Yeah.
And I think I think for Nova, which, just as a wrap up, it was a great time. I strongly recommend going if you can, for sure. It does sound like the US FOTOR Council is debating whether or not the US FOTOR Masters event's going to be at Nova next year. But whether it is or not, Nova's always been a great thing for Malifaux. It's a super great time, and as far as I know, next year it is going to once again be at the location where Reagan was shot, and you two could get a photo in front of the plaque commemorating that event. Wow, Reagan was shot there, guys.
You were ready to bookend that the whole time. You just had that in your back pocket this whole goddamn time, didn't you?
I had it. I had a separate copy of that in every single one of my pockets, including the one that we're not going to talk about.
Jesus. Okay, well, goodbye, the internet. It was fun. We'll see you next time.
Don't shoot Reagan.
Landon, you got anything spicy to say on the way out?
Oh no, I'm quite good. I will see you in Texas.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.